Yesterday was one of the most hectic days of baseball I can remember in quite some time. We had the trade deadline, and then on top of that, Astros starting pitcher Framber Valdez no-hit the Cleveland Guardians. He was one walk away from a perfect game. Now, speaking of the trade deadline and the Astros, they traded for Justin Verlander. We're going to go over every single trade that happened yesterday, and also Spencer Strider of the Braves. He made MLB history yesterday versus Shohei Ohtani. All of that in today's MLB Recap, a series in which we recap every single game, almost every single day. And a reminder, use code Fuzzy on SeatGeek to save 20 bucks off baseball games and concerts. Now, because there were so many trades yesterday, I'm not going to spend too much time going in depth on every single one. The first big one that we have to talk about, Justin Verlander and about $54 million. They're going to the Astros in exchange for a couple top prospects like Drew Gilbert. A lot of people are high on Drew Gilbert. The 2022 AL Cy Young, he's going back to Houston where he won his third Cy Young. He has a 1.49 ERA over his last 7. So when you factor that in with Framber Valdez throwing a no-hitter, we'll talk about that later. The Astros, they got to be scaring the Texas Rangers fan base right now. Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez, was traded to the Dodgers. Psych, he rejected a trade. The Dodgers were part of a 10-team no-trade clause, and Erod, he executed his right to not get traded. He says that he's comfortable in Detroit. I mean, tip my cap to him. So kind of a plan B. The Dodgers traded for Ryan Yarbrough of the Royals. He has a 4.2 ERA. He is very much a pitch-to-contact type of guy. He doesn't walk anyone, but he also doesn't strike out anyone either. So the Dodgers get their lefty, but not Erod. They got Ryan Yarbrough. Jack Flaherty is heading to the Orioles. The teardown of the St. Louis Cardinals is basically done at this point, and then you have Brandon Donovan out for the rest of the year. So Cardinals fans, I'm so sorry, but Jack Flaherty, he has a 4.4 ERA, and he's a free agent after the season, so this is definitely a rental. He's not been very good ever since he had a 0.9 ERA in the second half of 2019, but for an Orioles fan, you got to be happy about that. A 2023 All-Star was also traded. Michael Lorenzen, who was an All-Star simply because he was on the Tigers, he's been really good lately. He has a 3.6 ERA on the season, and he's only allowed 3 runs over his last 4 starts, so the Phillies, they did get better, in my opinion. Speaking of getting better, the Marlins had a big deadline. They traded for Jake Burger, who's only 27 years old, and he's not a free agent until 2029. He has 25 home runs on the season. He's top 1% in barrels, but he's also bottom 1% in chase rate, so he's going to swing at a lot of bad pitches. Just a fair warning, Marlins fans. They also picked up Josh Bell of the Guardians. He has 11 home runs and a 96 OPS plus. He has a $16 million player option for 2024. That's why the Guardians traded him for Gene Segura and Khalil Watson, who I like Khalil Watson, but Gene Segura, they DFA'd him, and they save about $8 million in doing so. The Marlins traded away Garrett Cooper to the San Diego Padres. Cooper was a All-Star in 2022. He has 13 home runs in 2023, and he's hitting .350 versus lefties in 2023. Scott Barlow, he's going from the Royals to the Padres, so the next few trades are going to be all San Diego based. Scott Barlow has a 5.4 ERA in 2023, but he has an almost 11 strikeouts per 9, and from 2021 to 2022, he had a near 2.3 ERA. They also picked up Rich Hill and Ji-Man Choi. Rich Hill is 846 years old with a 4.7 ERA. I mean, this is his 13th MLB team. He's just going to be an innings eater. And Ji-Man Choi, he's hitting .205 with 6 home runs, but he has a career 110 OPS plus versus righties, so he's going to be a platoon guy with Garrett Cooper. Paul DeJong is going from the Redbirds to the Bluebirds. He has great pop and defense, so he goes from the St. Louis Cardinals to the Blue Jays. The only reason why this is happening is because Bo Bichette went down with a knee injury. He's hitting .197 over his last 271 games, but with the defense and the pop, he can kind of be a Kroger's version of Bo Bichette, but I mean, not even Kroger's. He's not very good anymore. This was a surprising trade. Luis Urias is going from the Brewers to the Red Sox. He's a 26-year-old infielder who had back-to-back seasons from 21 to 2022 with 15-plus home runs and a 110-plus OPS plus, but he has a 51 OPS plus in 2023, so he got moved. A former Red Sox, Tommy Pham, who was on the Mets, is going to the Diamondbacks. He is a walking 15 home runs and 25 doubles. He hits the cover off of baseballs, and he doesn't chase bad pitches, so that's a sneaky good pickup for the left-handed dominant Diamondbacks. Staying with the Diamondbacks, they traded away Andrew Chafin. He goes to the Brewers. He has a 4.19 ERA. He does have nasty K stuff with a near 13 strikeouts per 9, and from 21 to 2022, he had a 2.2 ERA, so the Brewers, they're trying to capitalize on his recent success from the last few seasons. A lot of Braves fans are not happy about this, but Brad Hand has been moved to the Atlanta Braves. He has a 4.5 ERA, but he does have a 10.5 strikeouts per 9, and he's holding lefties to a 143 batting average, so he's on the move to the Atlanta Braves. And then last but not least, The Yankees did make some moves. A 3.9 ERA, Kenyon Middleton. He has 11.5 strikeouts per nine, but the walks have always been an issue. They also picked up Spencer Howard from the Rangers. He's a 27-year-old former top 30 prospect. He was top 30 in both 2021 and 2022, but he's been a complete bust. He has a 7.2 ERA, so the Yankees, they're trying to fix him. Also, the Rangers picked up Austin Hedges, but he's Austin Hedges. He's one of the worst players I've ever seen, but he can frame a pitch, so there you go. All right, let's get into the first game from yesterday. Not the walk-off. We'll talk about that in a second. We got to talk about this no-hitter down in Houston. Kyle Tucker's two-run single in the third is the only hit that you're going to be seeing in this recap because Framber Valdez... Yeah, Framber was one walk away from tossing a perfect game, and it's funny because that walk came against Oscar Gonzalez, who is one of the worst in baseball history at taking walks. Framber only needed 93 pitches to throw this no-hitter, making a Maddox, so a Maddox is a complete game shutout in under 100 pitches. He threw a no-hitter in 93 pitches. His curveball and sinker mix is absolutely devastating, so if Javier can get going and they factor in JV to go along with JP France, that's a nasty 1-4 punch. The Mets were taking on the Royals, and Pete Alonso had himself an interesting first half of this game. He had a mammoth home run, his 31st of the season, and then in the fifth, he took a pop-up right in the schnoz. Name that movie. He's an all-time bad defender at first base. Jose Quintana, that cost him a run because Michael Garcia got another chance and he lifted a sac fly. Michael, he clutched up again later on. It's now 3-1 Kansas City, but like the Kansas City bullpen stinks now that Chapman and Barlow are gone. So of course the Mets were going to get back into it and make it a game. Both teams, they were trading runs for the next hour with Francisco Alvarez going 431 feet for his 21st home run. So it's 6-4 New York, and their bullpen imploded as well. Bobby Witt Jr. had an RBI double. MJ Melendez, he tied it on an RBI single, and that, my friends, is a walk-off buck. I cannot believe I just saw that. But then again, we're talking about the 2023 Mets, so maybe I can believe it. That's their season summed up in one clip. Now, staying with the Mets, Max Scherzer, he completely snitched on their plans of punting 2024 and trying to be successful in 2025. Here's what he had to say.
That the team is now kind of shifting vision and that they're looking to compete now for 2025 and 2026. You know, 2024, it was not going to be a reload situation in New York, and that it was going to be more of a transition. I said, okay, that's a brand news to me, different than what I'd ever heard out of Steve's mouth. I was like, all right, I got to hear this directly from Steve. So I had a phone call with Steve, and he basically articulated the same vantage point, that was the new vision for the Mets. That was the new timeline that they were identifying, and that players that were under contract for next year, that they could be potentially sold off at the deadline right now. And so once it became official, that's the vision for the Mets, then I said, yes, I will waive my no trade clause underneath those pretenses.
If that's the case, and I'm a Mets fan, I'm not happy because that might dissuade free agents from coming to the Mets in 2024 if they're technically punting until 2025. Moving on, we have back-to-back walk-offs, although this one I'm kind of lying. We'll talk about why I'm lying in just a second because Lourdes Gurriel and Alek Thomas, they went yard for Arizona, and then so did Ketel Marte. He has 18 home runs and a 142 OPS plus while hitting 295. That's insane. Rookie Luis Matos, he doubled in Blake Sabol, and Old Man Jenkins, he tied it up at 3. Brandon Crawford went 420 feet on that 2-run blast. It's now 4-3. Lamont Wade Jr. has 10 home runs and a near 130 OPS plus. Good for him. And before we show the walk-off, but not a walk-off, look at Patrick Bailey in the 8th. He cuts down Jace Peterson trying to steal. He hosed him from his knees, and there's Patrick Bailey again. I really feel like walk-off web gems should be a thing. Patrick Bailey with the rocket back pick to nab Geraldo Perdomo at first base. That's a massive W for the Giants against their division rival Diamondbacks. Staying with the NL West, Fernando Tatis, he still exists. He doubles in San Diego's first run, and this guy has been no joke lately. Juan Soto, he went 431 feet for his first of 2 home runs, so do not go anywhere. I do have to show this home run, though. Ryan McMahon has 18 home runs while being the best defender in all of baseball. A crazy, crazy season for him. They can just find third basemen anywhere, it seems like. Remember how Juan Soto went 431 feet? He went 438. He has 22 home runs on the season. He has 147 home runs at 24 years old. He is one of 3 players ever with 140 home runs and 500 walks by age 24. The other 2 guys are in the Hall of Fame, Mel Ott and Mickey Mantle. By the way, Juan Soto has 606 walks. Josh Hader has 26 saves, a 0.89 ERA. The Padres, watch out for them. So if we're going to talk about the Giants and the Padres, now we got to talk about the Dodgers, and they had Lance Lynn on the bump making his LA debut. So Lance Lynn and the other newcomer, but also the former fan favorite Enrique Hernandez, got to face the A's, and he hit a laser beam 3-run double to clear the bases. That's got to feel so good. Speaking of so good, this Zach Gelof kid is ridiculous. He scored 11 times in his first 15 games. He has 9 extra base hits and 5 stolen bases in those first 15. There has to be a record in there or something. Brent Rooker and Jordan Diaz, they also went yards. So Lance Lynn, his debut ends with 3 earned runs, but he did have 7 strikeouts over 7 innings. Mookie, he got one back on his 28th home run, and LA, they ended up with 7 after a bases-loaded walk to James Outman, and Freddie Freeman, he roped an RBI single. The Dodgers, they do win easy. I'm going to tell you guys this. Stick around until the end because we have a huge update on the NL standings and the wildcard standings. From one LA team to another, we got to talk about the LA Angels and the fact that they became part of history in the worst way, though. On that strikeout right there to Shohei Ohtani, Spencer Strider became the fastest ever to 200 strikeouts in a single season. He did it in just 123 and a third innings. He ended up striking out 9 hitters, only giving up 1 earned run. He has a ridiculous 14 and a half strikeouts per 9. Michael Harris, he snapped a 20-game homerless streak, so he took that personally. He hit 2 of them. We're going to show the second in a second. Because Orlando Arcia, he belted one 420 feet. I was so wrong about this guy. I thought that Vaughn Grissom was going to be given the keys. No, Arcia's hitting 295 with 11 home runs. Harris hit his second home run, so through his first 197 games, he has 30 home runs, 33 stolen bases, and 11 outs above average in center field. He has crazy tools. The Braves win easy 5-1. I have no idea how Ranger Suarez only allowed 1 run against the Marlins because he allowed 10 base hits on 81 pitches. That RBI double from Avisail Garcia was the game's only run until the 9th inning, and we'll get to that in a second because it's Sandy time. Mr. Alcantara, he's back. He tossed 8 shutout innings on 4 base hits, and this comes after he threw a complete game the previous start. Sandy has a 2.4 ERA over his last 7 starts, so he's looking good all over again. Now here comes Miami's shiny new closing pitcher, David Robertson versus the 2-timer, and it's now a tie ball game. Harper, he doubled the other way to score Jake Cave, and someone's wife must have just filed for a divorce because Nick Castellanos, he had a go-ahead 2-run home run. He's been awful in the second half. He's hitting 130 even after that home run. Sir Anthony Dominguez, he converted his first save. That is a monster W against the Marlins, who are trying to battle for the Phillies for that final wildcard spot. We're going to talk about the Brewers and Reds games back-to-back. Let's talk about Milwaukee first because rookie Andrew Monasterio, he singled in the game's first run, but the Nationals, they did the same, but like scored more than 1. I don't know what that sentence was. CJ Abrams untied it on a 2-run single. The dude is 22 years old. He's on pace for 15 home runs and 39 stolen bases. You better give him a contract extension now. So Washington, they were up 3-1 when Milwaukee actually answered back. Rookie Bryce Terang, he matched CJ with a 2-run base hit, and then another rookie delivered with a 2-run single. Joey Weimer, he knocked in 2. He has 13 home runs, 11 stolen bases, and 8 outs above average. He has crazy athleticism. He just has to stop striking out so much. Freddie Peralta, speaking of strikeouts, he did allow 3, but he left with 7 punchies in 6 innings. William Contreras, there's an RBI double just for some fun, and Devin Williams, he now has 27 saves. Milwaukee, they can get to within a half game of first place if the Reds lose this next game down in Wrigley. If you're a Reds fan, I just want to say I apologize for what you're about to witness a second time. Here's a stat line you don't see very often. I'm going to go ahead and roll the highlights as I'm talking. After giving up a 3-run home run to Dansby Swanson and a 2-run home run to Cody Bellinger, his 16th, by the way, he broke the scoreboard on that home run. Another 3-run home run, this time off the bat of Mike Tauchman, and then finally a 2-run home run to Dansby Swanson. He had a multi-home run game. He has 15 on the season. There was a bunch of RBI singles and doubles sprinkled in. Cincinnati starter Ben Lively was tagged for 13 runs on 13 base hits. They said, hey man, our bullpen is kind of taxed. Can you go eat some innings? And eat innings he did. Well, he went 4 innings, so not really. The pen for Cincinnati wasn't much better. Nico Horner, he has 8 home runs. Patrick Wisdom, he has 19 home runs. And here's an early Christmas gift to Miguel Amaya, the rookie. He was given a pinch hit opportunity with a positional player on the mound. And yes, he hit a 3-run tater. Merry Christmas. By the way, the newcomer Jamier Candelario went 4 for 5. The Cubs are looking really good. They're 3.5 games back to the wild card. We have another blowout on our hands, although this one was actually a solid game through the first 6 innings. We had RBIs from Ryan Mountcastle and Adley Rutschman to put Baltimore up early, only to have Danny Jansen and Brandon Belt tie it on some home runs. Danny Bonds, he has 30 home runs and 92 RBIs over his last 142 games. Gunnar Henderson, this kid's so good. He got it back on his 18th, but he wasn't done yet. After Ryan Mountcastle doubled and Jorge Mateo, Jorge finally got on base. Gunnar, he ripped a huge 2-run double. Factor in his 3 defensive run saves at shortstop. He's going to be a perennial all-star for the next decade, and that'll do it right there. Santander, he opened the hips. He got his hands in through the zone. He pimped a 97-mile-per-hour fastball for a grand slam. He's up to 19 home runs, 62 RBIs, and 28 doubles as well. He's an extra base machine. this Baltimore team is tough. Now, because I feel bad that Toronto fans had to witness that, here's Matt Chapman making one of the plays of the year in the 7th inning. The dude is a defensive wizard. Zach Eflin was going for his MLB best 12th win of the season. He's facing the Yankees, so odds are he's going to get it. I'm sorry, Yankees fans. Manuel Margot, he laced an RBI double off of Carlos Rodon right before Yandy Diaz and Randy unloaded on some pitches. Yandy, he muscled out a solo home run, and Randy almost went 420 feet on that 2-run moonshot. Carlos Rodon has a 6.3 ERA with the Yankees so far. Brandon Lau has been a run-producing machine lately. There's another RBI, his 11th in his last 12 games. Eflin, he was great, by the way. 6 shutout with 5 strikeouts, and get this, he only needed 72 pitches to get through 6 innings. Pete Fairbanks, he made light work of Giancarlo Stanton. He blew it right past Stanton for his 14th save. We brought up the fact that the Guardians got no hit. They looked terrible yesterday, and the Twins, they need Pablo Lopez to capitalize on that L, and Pablo Lopez, he did just that. He went out there and tossed 6 quality frames, allowing just 1 run on 4 base hits. He struck out 5 in the process. He has a 3 ERA and 45 strikeouts over his last 6 starts, and that's including a 7 earned run day on July 15th. So he's been pretty rock solid lately. St. Louis, they kept their pitcher Miles Mikolas way too long, and it proved to be costly. That's a 2-run single to put the game on ice. Donovan Solano, aka Donnie Barrels, he puts the Twins up by 2, and they needed both of those because Tyler O'Neill, he got it within 1. That's one of the problems with Johan Duran throwing 9 bajillion miles an hour. He's going to provide the pop sometimes. He still has 18 saves, and the Twins, they're back up to a 2-game lead over the Guardians. The Rangers and the White Sox, Andrew Heaney, have yourself a day. He struck out 11 hitters in 6 innings, only allowed 2 base hits as well. White Sox pitcher, he kept up though. Jesse Schultens, I'm not gonna lie, I just figured out he existed, but he was terrific. He allowed just 1 run on a no-doubter to Mitch Garver. Mitch has some of the easiest power I've ever seen, and the dude is a catcher. Again, Andrew Heaney, he struck out 11. He came out after 6. Adolis Garcia, he was hyped up after that swing. He has 26 home runs and 85 RBIs. Aroldis Chapman, by the way, he struck out 3 in the 8th inning. He got it to Will Smith, who converted his 18 saves. So a lot of closers in baseball today getting to 18 saves. That's a big-time W after seeing what Houston did. They threw no-hitter and picked up Justin Verlander, so they better keep winning. We have the Mariners and the Red Sox. The battle for the AL wildcard continued down in Seattle, with Boston actually taking a 3-1 lead in the 4th off of rookie Bryce Miller, who's been terrible lately. Christian Arroyo, he had a 2-run double, and Reese McGuire lifted a sac fly right before Alex Verdugo went yard. Doogie has 39 extra base hits, 41 RBIs, and a very good .345 on base percentage. Reese McGuire, he yanked one out. His first of 2023. Kenley, he wrapped up his 24th save, and we'll show the updated wildcard standings after this last game. The kids showed up for Pittsburgh, and this one versus the Tigers. Rookie Endy Rodriguez tripled to score 1 in the 2nd, and check out this swing from rookie Liover Peguero. The kid has 3 home runs and 8 RBIs in his first 28 at-bats. Starting pitcher Johan Oviedo, he's still just 25 years old. He has the skill set to be nasty for a while. He's 6'5" with elite extension and velocity. He just has to work on not walking so many guys like he did in this one. 2 walks over 7, that's not terrible. That's back-to-back starts with 6+ innings, only allowing 1 run. David Bednar, I thought that he was like 33. He's just 28 years old. He struck out 2. He got all 3 outs on just 9 pitches. He has a 1.24 ERA on the season. So before we do today's Immaculate Grid, I feel like I might be able to do a speed run on today's because it looks pretty easy. Let's talk about the update in the standings. So the wild card, I think I'm going to talk about the wild card for the most part today. So the Rays, the Astros, and the Jays are all in the playoffs right now if the season ended today. The Red Sox won and the Blue Jays lost, so the Red Sox are a 1.5 games out. The Angels are within 3. The Yankees and the Mariners are tied at 3.5 games back, and I don't even want to talk about the Guardians. In the National League wild card, the Giants, the Phillies, and the Brewers are all in. The Marlins and the Diamondbacks are tied at 1 game back. The Cubs are within 3.5 games back, and the Padres, they're playing well. They got way better at the deadline. They're only 5 games back. And then like we mentioned, the Brewers are just a half game back because they won and the Reds lost. And then the Rangers and Astros, only a half game separates them as well. All right, let's see if we can do a speed run on this grid. So we have Carlos Santana as a Royal and Pirate. The Marlins, Jacob Stallings, I know that he was traded. I think that 1 minute, 100 Bay. I know that Jason Bay was a monster back in the day. Please don't get this wrong. Okay, Royals and Rangers, that is Chapman because he just got traded. I'm thinking about trades right now with Stallings, Rangers, and Marlins. That's easy. Pudge, I don't think that Pudge would actually work out. So Ivan Rodriguez, 100 RBI season for the Rangers. I'm going to go easy because I'm not really caring about my rarity score. I'm going for under 1 minute. Josh Hamilton, we have the Royals and the Orioles. I only know this guy because he's in a lot of videos making fun of him. Jordan Lyles, Marlins and Orioles. That lefty, what's his name? Tanner Scott. I think he went from the Orioles to, where's Tanner Scott? Come on, I need to get this in 1 minute. Tanner Scott. I'm pretty sure that he was on both. Yes, and then 100 RBI season for the Orioles. Why am I blanking on this? Ripken? Oh no, let's go Davis. Let's go Chris Davis. I know that he had a monster RBI season. Chris Davis. Let's go. That was quick. I can see why it was so quick because a lot of us had the exact same answers. Jeff Conine, 22%. You guys are lying. That's cheating. Who remembers that Jeff Conine existed? And then Starlin Marte and Roberto Clemente. Okay, I could have gotten those. That does it for today's MLB recap. A monster recap. If you watched all the way until the end, shout out to you. And a reminder, shout out to my editor, Camden. Here's his channel right here. Please go give him some love. He is an absolute monster when it comes to getting these done. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one.